It's episode 336 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture. And I am your host, Brian Barnett.
I am the finder of the third eye, Kris Cornelisse.
And we've got a lot to talk about this week. We've got a plethora of games. And the Game of the Year episode is fast approaching.
Yes, we still haven't set a date on that, but we're both rapidly doing prep and last minute stuff and reflecting on things. And yeah,
my prep
don't let
is
the fact there's
done.
only I've still got a little bit, but I'm getting there.
Yep.
But it depends on how much of Metaphor I want to play, because that would be quite the undertaking if I actually want to finish that. Probably won't happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would say it is within the next 2-ish episodes, we should be doing the Game of the Year.
Yeah, we want to get it done before January, because any later and it's just kind of taking the piss. But I am fervently of the belief that, you know, you should not be discussing any kind of Game of the Year before January. Like, plenty of places get articles out in December and November, and I'm just like, why? What are we doing?
The year isn't even over. There are games
that
were not eligible for the Game Awards that are going to be talked about on our Game of the Year episode.
Absolutely. And yeah, they might get, you know, they might be eligible for this year's at the end of the year, but then, you know, recency bias kicks in, and it's like, yeah. I get why they do it around this time, but it's still just stupid. And if we want to actually, you know, properly analyze the year's games and, you know, have critical insight, and not to mention just both the time to actually play them and the time to reflect on them, because a lot of these do, you know, benefit from reflection.
Exactly. So we've got a lot of stuff we're going to get to. I don't anticipate this being super lengthy, which is the thing, like classic, you know, picture taken before tragic events sort of a scenario. But let's get started with something that I have played and beaten, and you are here with your impressions of.
Yes.
1000X Resists.
That's right. All right. So the main game I'll be talking about later on was my focus for the week. And then immediately after that, I kind of shifted and picked up, you know, 1000X Resist, because I've been meaning to get around to it. So I played through the I suppose the first chapter. There's like a brief intro chapter, and then the first chapter. And yeah, I know a little bit about it from you going into it, about how, you know, there's no combat. It's, you know, kind of visual novel running around investigating stuff. But yeah, I'm super intrigued to see where it goes. Pretty much from the outset, it's like there's all sorts of interesting stuff going on, and many questions I have about what the fuck the state of the world is, and who the various characters are and what they are in a lot of ways. And yeah, and then it starts you off going back through the memories of this person who became God effectively, and you are a clone of her, I assume. It seems to be. And yeah, again, I can see your smirk just growing as I try and, you know, grapple with this stuff. It's like, yeah, I got no idea what's going on.
It's great.
To start with,
who have you met so far? Have you met Bang Bang Fire
yet? She was mentioned. I briefly ran into her in, like, because it starts with the flashback of how you basically say goodbye to Fixer.
Yeah.
And a couple of them are there. So I have spoken to her in brief passing, and I remarked at the fact that the name is Bang Bang Fire. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But
great.
Yeah. Then the first chapter is just, you know, a bunch of I don't even know what they are. The soldier people who are just kind of talking to you, and it's so weird. It's so weird. It's really weird. And I'm very curious to know what is going on. But then you go back through the whole thing and what seems to be like a ground zero for what happened to the character Iris to eventually become the All Mother and all that. And yeah, it's I love the art. I love the colors. It's very striking. It's the what are they called? The weird alien things, the big red thing. Like, they always, you just, you know, you're minding your own business, and then suddenly giant fucking red silhouette just looming over the top of a building, and it's like, wow, that is a striking visual. But yeah, no idea how it's gonna all unfold yet. but I finished right at the start, like finished my play session right at the start of chapter 2. So I went through all of chapter 1 and the background story and stuff. And then was basically greeted by, here is a situation, here is a summary of the events that followed everything. And then just the sky becomes like like a child's drawing of various events, up to and including the horrible immolation death of somebody because of your actions. Like, okay, all right, that's something. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Watch this space, but
Yeah.
I'm super intrigued. Super intrigued.
I've just got one thing to say, and that is hair to hair, sister, sphere to square.
Hecky Elmo.
Hecky Elmo. Hecky Grace. All right. Yeah, I mean it's fantastic.
Yeah, hopefully I will have I intend to try and focus on that this week, so hopefully I'll have a full thing next week and
Nice.
yeah, in time for GOTY.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. I beat actually a couple of games this week. I beat one, two, or not this week, but since the last time I talked about stuff, and now I beat 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna knock out 2 of them real quick.
Yep.
I Will and I got together and played through. I had never played. I like beat 'em ups a lot, but I had never played Turtles in Time. So I have the Cowabunga collection, and he picked it up on Steam, and then we played through the whole thing in like one sitting. Although we did have to restart a little ways in because I ran out of continues, and apparently the mode we were playing didn't let you like add more.
Okay.
Like you were just smoked. So I think it was the Super NES version doesn't allow you to add more lives, but the arcade version does. So I've played like the first 4 or 5 levels of the SNES version, and then I played the whole arcade version. It's really fun. It's really fun. It's crazy the degree to which I feel like that game is kind of obviated by Shredder's Revenge. Not completely, because there are like some bosses where, actually, well, yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool to see where a lot of the stuff in Shredder's Revenge came from. And
Will,
I had
I have to say, Will was like a proud parent, just going into Discord and saying, "Important announcement, everyone! Brian has finally done, played through Turtles in Time."
Yeah.
So I'm just, waking up, checking Discord, seeing that, like,
Yeah.
great, yep, cool.
Yeah, Will is great. Will is great. He's also like the first to disqualify your gaming opinion or your genre opinion, or like out you to the world for not having done something if you haven't. But on the other end, after you do, he's like, everybody, the emergency is over. Everyone, you can go back to your homes.
He will make sure to fill in any, essential gaps in your knowledge and celebrate the accomplishment when you do, but he will also be the first one to point that, that missing knowledge out. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
He is ruthless, but he's a good guy.
Yeah. He's ruthless most of the time, but sometimes he is filled with Ruth.
That's
so
true.
There you go. And the other thing I wanted to, Ruthful?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to get into was I played Neva. So we've been talking about wanting to get through a bunch of stuff for Game of the Year. So I reached out to the PR representing Nomada Studios to try to get keys for some of the things that had been recommended to me or that I just knew I wanted to get to, but hadn't done yet. And Nomada Studios' previous game, Greece, was like an incredible experience, one I will never forget. It was my like screenshots from that game were my desktop background for ages.
Yeah, that game is that is art.
Yeah, it's like painting. It's like playing a watercolor painting.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Neva is the follow up to that, and it takes what made that first game great, and then it adds combat.
Interesting.
And it also adds a companion. like you have your white wolf with you for almost the whole game. And it is, so I haven't played um The Last Guardian. And
I can weigh in.
a lot has been made of that game's fostering of like a relationship between you and an animal that doesn't like entirely understand you or doesn't have a static set of capabilities.
Yeah.
Um, Although I never played that, I got that out of this. Um,
Okay.
the I don't even know what the main character's name is. Um, but you have your attack button, which is like the square button, and then if you hit triangle, you will call your wolf companion, and you can call them towards you. You can direct them towards other things. At a certain point, they will be able to do combat things with you. Um, and as the game goes on, it's incredible. It is just as artfully done as the previous game. Although I would say I don't think there are as many like holy shit like moments where like the art, because I feel like the art and the movement of the art in Greece was like way more um present than it is here, but it's
Mhm.
also here. I feel like there was a lot of times in this game where I was just like running through an area and like my god, like I took tons of screenshots of this too. So, you're not going to be lacking in the like visuals department, but I feel like what this game does differently is it's not just a contemplative emotional experience where you're examining like heartbreak and anxiety or depression or things like that. um, Neva is kind of about grief and growth and um I don't know. Hold on. Let me see. What did I say? Because I wrote a review of this game.
Mhm.
Let me see
To the backlogged.
oh, where is it?
But yeah, if you're listening to this and you've never heard of either Grease or Never, go look at a trailer just for either of them or both, and you'll instantly see what we're talking about. Like there's, I almost equate it to what's the game? Journey. You know, just that kind of
Yeah.
just an art piece in terms of how the visuals are arranged and you progress through them, and it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I reviewed this on Backlogged. Follow me on Backlogged at Brian Barnett. Um, it's gorgeous. The music is atmospheric, and I loved Neva the Wolf and the game completely by the end. Neva is about grief, fighting the endless and seemingly hopeless fight against the darkness, and life's resilience in the face of both wonderful and terrible things. Um, because yeah, it's about life, not like a person's life, but like the concept of life
Hmm.
and how it can arise and flourish because of horrible things and in spite of horrible things and in the absence of it's interesting. Life isn't always life isn't always a good thing, but not in the way that the Souls games try to tell you that life isn't always a good thing. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. It's really good. It's really fantastic. I think I beat it in like 4 hours. It doesn't cost that much. It is, let me see. It is $20 on Steam. It plays magnificently on Steam Deck. You really, if you have not played these games, like Grease and Neva are both fantastic. And I loved the combat in that game.
That's good.
It is like they combine the combat and the platforming in such an interesting way. Because there are these like dark figures, and sometimes um, like blocks will straight up fall from the ceiling that have enemies in them, and they will then like run at you, and you have to like get over them before you're smushed. Um, and they also have kind of like a Hollow Knight ish. Uh, the more strikes you do against enemies, like the more your health fills up. Um, so yeah, I thought it was very interesting, the kind of push and pull of that game. I really, really like it.
It joins the category of games, much like the Ori games, where it's like, yeah, it starts out as a contemplative platformer with gorgeous art, and then adds combat the second game, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's really good.
wild stuff, good
Really good.
stuff.
Tell me about Marvel Rivals. This is a game that I have not been playing as much recently because I've been playing all these single player games, but I want to.
Yeah, so amidst all my single player shenanigans, this has kind of become my go-to multiplayer game, aside from the weekly WoW raids and everything. But coincidentally enough, I played this with a couple of my WoW buddies and a couple of my real life buddies. So I bounce between North America and Australia servers, and get to experience it both with good and bad latency. So, but it still plays pretty well for both of them, which is a rarity in this kind of game. So shout outs to the netcode on that one. But yeah, so Marvel Rivals. Spoke about it a bit last week, and since then it got its first big update. So it went from season 0 to season 1, and immediately added two new characters. That being Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Susan Storm, Invisible Woman from the Fantastic Four, with the promise that the other two will be along later in the season. So they're both interesting characters, and probably a bit too strong. Probably hard to say. That might just be growing pains and everyone getting used to them, but they do interesting stuff. So Mr. Fantastic is effectively a DPS character who is almost like a melee character. He plays much like the other melee characters do in the game, which is a lot of they basically generate shields by fighting and doing stuff in order to actually stay in combat. He does that, but he's also ranged because he, throws his, fists halfway across the map. But he also he just has a lot of durability, the ability to kind of absorb incoming attacks and then spit them back out, up to and including ultimate abilities, as was demonstrated in the trailer. But yeah, I've seen him just go and eat, Scarlet Witch's ultimate, where she just kind of charges up and then does the massive explosion that just clears. Yeah, he can just eat that and then shoot it back at her. It's ridiculous. So yeah, so he's dumb fun. Sort of like it's almost like they translated Zack, the slime character from League of Legends, into Marvel Rivals, and yeah, he's neat. I want to play more of him.
Hmm.
And then the Susan Storm, Invisible Woman, is a support character, and I haven't had the chance to play her yet, mainly because she was being hogged by one of my friends who was playing her a lot. And she seems very, very good. She has the ability to, heal, to project shields down in front of people. That's obviously blocks damage, absorbs hits, and makes you a lot more durable. You can just kind of throw a shield down in front of like a Punisher turret or whatever. Has her ultimate like creates a field that basically makes all of your allies within it completely invisible. So you drop that on like a combat point, like a defense point or whatever, and then just absolutely wreck people if they try and go in and stop you. It's great.
AoE stealth. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah, and she seems to fit a pretty good she fills a niche in the current lineup of support heroes that isn't. She's not like stepping on anyone's toes or anything like that. She's a good addition. I like her. I want to play her a bit to get a hands-on impression myself. But they have been added to the game. They show up in pretty much every match, so you will deal with them one way or another. And then in addition, they added a new map, which is again pretty cool. Like it's the streets of New York under vampiric infestation, whereupon you then go into the sanctum, whatever it's called, Stranger's Sanctum, and the layout and everything gets pretty fucking wild there, portals and such. Um, and yeah, it's typical payload. One team pushes, the other team has to stop them. It's cool. But then the real fun highlight is that they added an arcade map thing, and they had one over the winter break, which was the Jeff mode. But this one is it takes what is normally a 6v6 team-based game and turns it into a free-for-all.
Hmm.
And it's fucking stupid. It just instantly threw me back to the bygone days of old with the arena shooters, playing Unreal Tournament and Quake with friends at LAN cafes and everything like that. Just instantly that kind of vibe. And immediately there becomes a rapid tier list of what characters work well in this, because certain characters obviously better than others, but kind of rely or bolster a team, or work better in a team environment. When you don't have that team, they don't work very well.
Yeah.
So naturally, a lot of the ones with self-sustain, like the melee characters, do a lot. The high damage tanks like Thor do quite well, and yeah, but it's just really it's dumb fun to just kind of go in and see what your character can do on their own without the backup or support of people, and which characters just completely body you. Like I played a bunch of Star-Lord for a bit, for at least a round or two, because he's one of my go-to DPS characters. And basically anytime I would run into an Iron Fist, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll die. There's no way I'm beating you. I cannot out DPS you. I cannot beat your your incoming sustain and shields faster than you can kill me. At one point, I just said, fuck it, I give up. I just started flying straight up, and he's punching through the air to follow me all the way to the top of the map while I'm just becoming increasingly incredulous and then die. It's like, fucking all right. It really is a case of Iron Fist and Star-Lord in the same room. Guess I'll die.
Yeah.
So,
Hard counters. Unfortunate.
yeah, there's a lot of little interactions like that, and it's just funny to see what people, what rises to the top, what falls to the bottom, and which characters you just never see at all.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just good dumb fun, but it's a lot of good dumb fun. So
Nice.
yeah, but
I
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think after I'm done with my next single player game, I think I am gonna give myself permission to just like dive into Rivals and play a bunch of it. I
Now
need to
hit
get
me
like
up
a
when you
crew
do.
together to do that. But
Uh,
yeah, I'm excited.
I'll be the second one in there. So absolutely, just shoot me a message. I'll play. I
Yeah,
play with a whole bunch of friends in different groups, and yeah, it's just good fun. I really enjoy it. It's my go-to multiplayer game of choice right now. So yeah,
yeah, I dig it.
absolutely.
Really good. All
But with
right.
that, ball back to you.
Yeah. So on the last episode, we actually went a little bit long. I was gonna get to this last time, which would have been good because now that I'm thinking about it, since I've beaten 4 games since this one, I'm like, man, this is not as fresh in my mind as it was before. But
I'm trying to keep up. I swear, really.
it's true. It's true. But I beat Metaphor ReFantazio.
Yes.
And I had said a lot about it previously. Um, I don't know if I said this on the last episode. I imagine I probably did, but playing through it, I got kind of the same vibes I got from Elden Ring,
Hmm.
being that this is like an Atlas Persona style RPG where they've learned a lot from the mistakes they've made in the past and from their successes in the past. And so this kind of feels like a greatest hits album of theirs.
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember you saying that a couple of episodes ago. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that definitely holds true through the ending. Um, I feel, or I felt at the time when I beat it, well, this is now my favorite um, Atlas game alongside of Catherine. Um, and I think that it is better as an overall package than any of the Persona games that I have played, which is uh, 3 reload, 3 portable, 4 golden, 5 base, and 5 royal.
So all the modern personas, basically.
Yeah. I do not count Persona 4 Arena and Persona 4 Arena Ultimax in this because
Different.
those are totally different and fighting games and incredible. But
God, I love those games.
they are just immaculate. Um, but Metaphor is really, really good. There is a little bit of the problem where something overstays its welcome and gets a little bit too talkative at the end. But comparing this to Dragon Age, the Veilguard, it's like a totally different. Like this is like it's almost so small an issue that it doesn't warrant discussing, except for the fact that that's basically my only complaint.
Okay.
With it, and it's not a major problem because I've heard some people say that I thought the game was going to end a couple of times before it did, but those weren't like leagues away from the actual end. Where sometimes it'll be like, oh, I think the game's about to end, and then it's literally another like 15 hours, which is how I felt with Dragon Age, which is just like, oh, I feel like this is done, and it's not.
And sometimes you get an Okami where you think you finished the game, and it turns out no, that was the third of the game.
Yeah. But yeah, Metaphor is fantastic. I think it's really great. It's a lot of fun. I love the job system. The art is incredible. It runs magnificently on Steam Deck. It was one of those games where as soon as I beat it, I fired it up and started into New Game Plus to try to see if I could do it, because there's an optional super boss that's only available in New Game Plus. And because I beat the hardest boss in New Game, I was like, well, and by the time I got to the end boss is hard. Like the end boss, I beat the hardest boss and I actually still failed on the final boss, which is not something that typically happens. Typically, if you beat the hardest boss in the game and then you go into the final boss, it's like a cakewalk. That was actually not true.
Shout outs to SMT5 for flipping that, where beating the super boss gives you a harder version of the true end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that also happens in this, but I do know that there are apparently multiple endings in this game, and I did get the bad ending first. There's a very obvious thing that you could do in this game where it'll give you the bad ending, and I was like, I can't believe they're giving me this option to do this. I'm just gonna do it and see what happens. So I got that, and then I was like, all right, let me load and then do the thing that I was gonna do. And then I went, and I feel like I got the true ending. I have not looked that up yet. But I mean, my ending was great. Like my ending was really fantastic. And I like what they do. There is a little bit after you beat the game. So even still, like that was part of the, like when I thought I was gonna be done with the game, I still had like 2 to 4 hours left, but it wasn't it wasn't the game moving the goalposts. It was the game giving me more of what happened later than I expected. Because most of the time in a lot of these games, they'll give you like some postlude or epilogue or whatever you want to call it, where you kind of check in with the characters, but it's very brief. It's like 5 minutes.
It's brief.
10 minutes.
It's largely open-ended. It's more like a, here is what I'm going to aim towards next.
And it's usually not gameplay. But this is. So, so that was, I liked that a lot because I feel like one of the main themes of this game is like desperately trying to create a better world. And I feel like the end would not work as well as it does if you didn't see if they actually did make the world better. And so I felt like that was good. I felt like it was...
Yeah, you at least need to see the opening steps of what they're going to do now that they're in a position to do so.
Yeah. And there's a little time jump too, which is cool.
Okay.
So you get to see like the effects more than you would if it was just like literally the next day or something. But yeah, it's interesting. I like it. I like a lot of what it said. I need to I want to marinate on it a little bit more. Marinate in it, I suppose. Sit in the juices of my thoughts on Metaphor But I don't know with the Persona games. Like, I'm not the type of person who's going to play them again, so it's hard for me to say what would make this stand out more than the others. But I think the thing that I respect the most about this game is it's saying more than the other games are saying.
Significantly more so, like pretty much from the outset.
Yeah, and I really respect that, and I think it's really special. A lot of people were just like, "Is this Persona 6?" And it's not that. It's better than that. Like, to the point where, like, when Persona 6 comes out, I don't know that I'll be able to play it. Because this has raised the bar in what I want from this team. So yeah, it is certainly one of the best games I played last year. Where is it gonna end up on the list? I don't know. We're doing our Game of the Year episode in a different format than we were last year, but this is definitely in my personal top 5. So take that for
Good
for what it's
stuff.
worth.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of publications, like I think it was IGN's Game of the Year.
Yes.
A whole bunch of places really love this game. Got, glowing reviews. Everyone's talked it up.
Yeah.
And like, I really like what I played. I just kind of put it down for a while and haven't come back to it. And
Yeah. It is very interesting to me to look at the other games in my top 5 and to think how there are 2 in my top 5 that are kind of similar as far as scope and scale, and then the other 3 are wildly different. And it's gonna be a really interesting Game of the Year episode.
That's for sure.
And I can't wait. But yeah, kudos to Atlas and the team at Studio Zero for putting together just a fantastic game. Better than I expected. I think considerably better than I expected.
Good stuff.
So yeah. Back to you.
Now, please apply some of that budget to Shin Megami Tensei, please. Like, I love SMT5. I really do. Vengeance especially, but like, man, if it got even a fraction of the money and attention that Studio Zero gave Persona and Metaphor now, damn.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that will. I mean, Metaphor was very, very well received, so hopefully that will give them the push to move SMT closer to the 4 and maybe give it a little bit more love, a little bit more polish. Because from what I understand, like, the combat system is basically just SMT.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So like, why wouldn't you? Like, give it to me, do it. And there are a lot of references, like there are a lot of like mechanical references or like job, like class name references to the other Atlas properties.
Interesting.
Which was really fun for me. To like see, even as somebody who hasn't played all of these. But yeah. Anyways, let's kick it back to you. And it's your turn. It's time for the tables to turn. And we talk about a game that you have beaten and I have just gotten the earliest impressions of.
Anyway. Oh, so you actually have you have a little bit of time with this? Or?
I just started, and I'm so early. Like, I literally think, hold on, let me check my time. I think it's literally like 10 minutes. Like, it's ridiculous.
So the first puzzle, if that, got it.
I solved the first puzzle and got into the gatehouse, and that's it.
Okay, yep. Cool. So I played a game called Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. And this is a puzzle game. I can't remember the developer's name. I know it's published by
I'm looking it up.
Thanks. Yeah, it's done by the people who did Sayonara Wild Hearts, so much so that there is, in fact, a reference to that game. And yeah, it's one of the many good puzzle games that Annapurna puts out, so shout outs to them.
It's Samogo.
Samogo, got it. Yeah, so how to describe Lorelei and the Laser Eyes? It is a puzzle game, first and
literally
foremost.
12 minutes.
12 minutes, okay. So you went to the gatehouse, yeah, you may not even, okay, cool.
But this is what I'm going to be working on between now and next week.
So I will say, excuse me. So my overall playtime, let me just look that up. Excuse me, 17 hours. And that was, I think the actual like in-game clock measured at like 15. There was, a bit of idling time and such. But yeah, so to describe it, it is a puzzle game first and foremost, and it takes place in a seemingly abandoned hotel with only a couple of people in it. You are someone who has been called to it to go investigate. And yeah, and the entire thing basically becomes like an elaborate escape room of sorts where there are puzzles just throughout the place that you constantly got to piece together. You'll be getting information and solving puzzles that end up being solutions to much later puzzles, but you don't know when or how. Like one of the first puzzles that I did literally is also one of the last. But and then yeah, you're just constantly going through piecing together, solving mostly number problems. A lot of different math problems, very basic math problems, most of which have you'll quickly find there's a through line where a couple of like three 4-digit numbers will continue to get brought up a lot because they reference years, and these years happen to involve events in the story because it takes place over a long time seemingly, and you're trying to piece together all the different events, the different characters, how they interweave, and getting more insight as you solve more puzzles and go through it. And so basically, once I started playing, I almost didn't stop playing for like 3 days. Like I took occasional breaks because my brain hurt too goddamn much. In which case I'll play Marvel Rivals, and then go back to this. And I basically did that for 3 days until it was done, and ended up really satisfied with the overall experience. It's really interesting. It's also has a very striking visual style, so not as
Yeah, I dig it.
yeah, it's not as colorful or overly flamboyant as others. It is very muted because there are only three colors in the palette effectively, and it's black, white, and pink. So the whole thing is just black and white grayscale, and then there will be splashes of red or magenta or whatever, either to highlight different things or kind of direct the eye towards clues, and also just because it comes up more and more in the plot and so on as you go through. And piecing together all the disparate parts became really interesting. I was definitely invested in learning more about what the hell was going on in terms of the story, and also how much of it was true, because a lot of it deals with artists. The characters are artists. One of the main figures, the one that you were basically called to help with his investigation, is basically super eccentric auteur filmmaker who was just going like increasingly more experimental and weird and wild until the project that you and he were working on or are working on. And then that's clearly in the past or something, and you're trying to piece together all of that. But it ends up being really interesting because, again, it feels like it's this multi-generational story, and then you find out some of its lies, some of its truth. Different characters will come in. You'll find out whole characters that you thought were really interesting never existed. And yeah, the overall end reveals and what you're able to take away from it at the end are, I found it quite satisfying overall. I'm just like, that's really cool. That's a pretty neat little story. So
Nice.
yeah. Uh, and I'm proud to admit I didn't have to look up too many guides.
I'm curious, and I know that me saying this uh, got me into a situation where I had a bet with Odell Harmon Jr. that he still actually owes me a steak dinner for. But that he has said he will make good on the next time I'm in LA or visiting Sony or something like that. But I wonder if I'll need to look up guides for this. I'm curious.
So there's a couple of things. There's
I dig it,
only.
but I've only played 12 minutes, but I really like it. I'm excited to get into it. Hey, did you ever play 999 or the other Zero Escape games?
I didn't. I did not,
Okay.
but
Or
I know
Danganronpa
about
or any
them.
of those?
No,
Okay.
I'm familiar with a lot of these, and pretty much as I was wrapping this up, I'm just like, man, I kind of got the itch. I need to go back and play 909 because I've got
Yeah.
people hounding me from literally decades ago to get on that. So,
Yeah.
but I definitely have the puzzle itch. So, that will probably join, 1000 X Resist as my go-to games for projects to work on.
Yeah. I'm curious to know how similar it is, but yeah, if you don't have the context, then I guess I'll come back with that as I play more.
Yeah,
Because
I
those
don't
are
have the
really the only
context,
room
but
escape games that I really have a ton of experience with.
yeah, I will say there's no, how do I put it? There are game over states where you can fuck up and, have to reload, but there's never anything like urgent, like anything like a ticking clock or you are being pursued by something like that. It
Okay.
is all just more cerebral and just there'll be certain situations where it's like answer correctly or get shot. And yeah, answer correctly or get shot. They're not lying. But the game tells you that pretty much out the gate. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. I
But
dig it.
yeah.
Awesome.
Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
Beautiful visuals, beautiful soundtrack. And yeah. The big thing I will just say the big thing I looked up when in terms of guides was not any solutions. It was just knowing, do I have the information needed to solve this puzzle now? Or is it something I will get later and I should look elsewhere? Because that's the big thing. It's not necessarily it's not necessarily, solving the puzzles. It's knowing if I have the context to solve the puzzle.
hmm,
And there was one I'm just like, am I supposed to be solving this now? I feel like I have the pieces, but I can't seem to. And so I looked it up and they said, no, you'll get the context later. I'm like, cool, thank you.
hmm, okay.
That's most of what I did rather than actual solutions. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Speaking of person and adjective noun, I beat Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
That's a segue.
Yeah. Man, what a game. I can't believe that that they did it. I can't believe
It's
Machine
kind of
Games did it.
wild, isn't it? Like, I think when, trailers and such started dropping earlier in the year, a lot of people were just like, meh.
Yeah.
Just we were thoroughly whelmed, I suppose was the saying.
I've been hurt before, all right?
Mm,
You know.
mm.
Who
And
would have
like,
thought that Machine Games would create not just a great Indiana Jones game, but one of my favorite Indiana Jones stories I've ever seen.
high praise.
Like my favorites are The Last Crusade and
Hmm.
Raiders in that order.
Yeah.
Um
I think most people agree that, interchangeable order depending on who you talk to. I prefer Raiders personally, but
yeah.
yeah, it's those two,
And
then
I know
Temple, and
Will
then
prefers
yeah,
Raiders for sure.
yeah.
Um yeah, I mean it's I had like my share of bugs with the game. Like that is one
Hmm.
thing where I'll say like there was quite a bit of pop in that I experienced, and there was one specific section where I uh would get re-triggered dialogue, like the same dialogue re-triggered like several times and not in the position that I was in where it should have been happening,
Right.
which was weird. But like that really didn't
It was published by Bethesda. What do you
impact.
expect?
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't developed by them, so you don't
No,
expect
no,
it.
no, no.
But yeah, but
But that's
yeah,
why you can actually get through the game without,
yeah. I think they really nailed the vibe. Like this enters the pantheon of games that make you feel like this character. Um, and the new characters like Gina and Locus and Voss are fantastic additions who feel exactly like they are Indiana Jones characters. Like they exist right along. Like Voss is like up there as like the one of the best um like indie villains ever. Like he's awesome. He's acted
Very
just
neat.
so well. Um Yeah, it's fantastic. Making it a more approachable, like immersive sim instead of an action game, which is what Machine Games is most known for, was a
Yeah,
fantastic decision.
yeah,
Um,
most of their games were the recent Wolfenstein games,
yeah,
and I mean, in hindsight, like we probably shouldn't be that surprised because you think Wolfenstein and you think action stuff, big over the top shooters and shooting Nazis and such. I mean, well, one, that fits in perfectly with Indiana Jones, but two, those games delve really well into like characters and like introspective stuff. In addition, and they also have interesting, antagonists and such as well. They're not nearly as meathead as you might expect, with the exception of the co-op one they did with the daughters, Youngblood or whatever, which was
yeah,
don't know.
Youngblood.
I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with that. All the others are really great though.
Yeah,
So Machine Games do good work, and I suppose we shouldn't have been that surprised that they managed to land this, but it is still a welcome surprise.
the degree it is not a surprise that they landed this. It is a surprise the degree to which they landed this because I
Got it.
like this better than any of those Wolfenstein games. Um,
Got it.
but I'm not as much like I'm a combat sicko, but I'm not as much of a like first person combat sicko necessarily. Um and so going with a like this is if you're going to introduce somebody to RPGs, like some of the classic Pokemon games are like a great way to start. If you want to
Hmm.
introduce somebody to immersive sims, give them this. Um
Okay.
this is it provides um it disincentivizes you from getting into gun combat, which is a really brave choice for machine games specifically because the
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
disincentivizing gun combat when gun combat is the thing that people love this team or this studio for is crazy brave. Um, but it also that decision also provides more depth and sense of place because you could just walk around and explore. There are tons of
Hmm.
non-combat zones in this game, like where you can just walk around and there's just a bunch of people. Things like melee combat, the way that you can use your whip for combat or exploration, and even photography and how keys work in the game, which I don't know if I described on this show, but I know I did on Brian Shea's show, um, where like you pull out, like you'll walk up to a door, it'll give you a prompt. You pull out the key, you have to look down towards the keyhole. Once you're looking at the keyhole, it'll have you press X and then you'll stick the key in and then you have to twist it with the analog stick. It's so like satisfying tactily that I'm just like, why has no one ever done this before? Um, like it's so
Somehow
stupid.
I'm getting a flashback to Metroid Prime 3 of all things, which had you do that with the Wiimote.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah. Which
certain
I love that. Like
locks. It's
little
like, yeah.
touches like that are great. Like people need to do more with that. Um, yeah, it's an incredible achievement, and I really hope that Machine Games can return to this later because if they can write, and I don't know who wrote it, like I haven't looked up the credits on Moby Games or anything, but like whoever wrote this, if this was the Machine Games people, they crushed it. If they had somebody from Lucasfilm or Disney or whatever write this, they crushed it. Like whoever it was who did this story is a beast. Like,
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it wasn't anybody from Disney.
yeah, well, I mean, I haven't even bothered. I saw the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I have not seen the
Dial of Destiny or whatever it
yeah
is.
Dial of Destiny. I have not seen that just because like
Uh,
I was so underwhelmed
yeah, I'm the
by
same, and
yeah.
I didn't hear much great about Dial of Destiny. I heard it's like fairly standard kind of, Harrison is way too old. It's kind of, it's all. There's a lot of films these days which kind of like they take the classic series characters or whatever and then kind of tear them down and try and uplift these new ones that just aren't as good or aren't as deserved. And I mean, the obvious one is the Star Wars sequels, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard a lot of people grumbling about that for this one as well, and or Dial of Destiny, and apparently like it's largely redeemed by like the last 10 to 15 minutes of the movie going absolutely ape shit
Wow.
in like the best possible ways, but everything else about it is, mid at best. So,
Yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws. There you go. It's
Yeah,
same fucking situation.
it's wild. And another thing to say is Troy Baker does a ridiculously good Harrison Ford impression for this game. Like, it's nuts. It's really,
Troy
really
Baker is good at his job. He's an asshole, but he's good at his job.
Yes, he is really, really good. Like, Harrison Ford is one of those people where it's like, I don't think of impressions of him because people like don't do it. He's not like Arnold or whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've never really heard. I've heard two good impressions of Harrison Ford. One is by Mark Hamill, and one is in this game. So
Wild.
it's pretty crazy. But
and
yeah,
of course, Mark Hamill can do it. He can do anyone. He's crazy good.
Yeah. But yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm thinking now, just there's a whole bunch of Star Wars games or whatever in the past that have had Harrison Ford sound-alikes, or air quote sound-alikes, because they don't do a great job, and you can always tell. It's like, yeah, okay, it's not them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Really fantastic.
So
really fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I have yet to pick up Indiana Jones, but I do want to. It has the problem of being a AAA game, and Australian prices mean it is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
So I either need to reach out to PR and, see if they'll hook a brother up, or otherwise, yeah, there'll be a time and place for that one. So
yeah, for sure.
Probably won't get to it before GOTY, but I am definitely looking forward to doing so. So
for sure.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, definitely worth it. That's another one that's in my top 5 for the GOTY discussion.
Damn.
There's a lot of good shit. And speaking of games that are in my top 5 for the GOTY discussion, I also beat another game this week. I played a game called Skald Against the Black Priory. This is a game that was recommended to me by, I believe, Brogan.
I think I've seen Brogan talk about it
on
when
Blue Sky.
You've been talking about it, yeah.
I believe. And he said that was in his top 5 for 2024. I'm going to read my post about this game, and then I'm going to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah. For reference, I have not played it. I have seen like a single trailer, and instantly the art style is like, ooh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. This is the best Lovecraftian video game I've ever played. And if you know me, and if you know some of the posters that I have on my wall, that's a really powerful statement. And this game also, I need more distance, but having just beaten it,
yeah, you need to reflect. You need to come back to it, because if you end up, not thinking about it for weeks afterwards, you go, okay, maybe it didn't leave that an impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say
you should never do knee-jerk reviews.
Yes, I can say definitively, it's the best Lovecraftian game I've ever played. Period. There are other really good ones. This is the first one that makes me feel like reading Lovecraft makes me feel, and that I never get. Like, you can get some of the vibes, but like, this game has tons of writing in it, and it makes me feel like I'm reading a new Lovecraft story, which is crazy impressive.
Yeah.
And
for as much as people get the idea of the mythos and, apply it, it's very rare that people actually look at H.P. Lovecraft's actual writing style and try to emulate it exactly.
Yes. And it's another thing. So like with Souls games, a lot of people misunderstand what's the most important thing. Like, they'll take one thing and they'll be like, oh, give this thing a lot of tentacles, and then it's scary. And it's like, no. Like, it needs to be unsettling. You need to paint a picture with your words to make a really bizarre, like, deeply uncomfortable, messed up thing. And
something that is so far beyond your comprehension.
Yes,
that it becomes hard to piece together, but you're still trying.
There's a thing with eldritch horror where it takes something mundane and makes it terrifying, and it takes something terrifying and makes it mundane as well. Like this is just a thing that should not be, that you can't wrap your mind around. And the madness element is one that games have tried so many times. And they can do that with mechanics. They can do that with writing. This is done with the writing. Some of it is mechanical, but most of it is just in the quality of the writing, the visuals, the music, like these sorts of things. As you know, if you've followed me for a long time, like Baldur's Gate 2 is my favorite game ever. And having that sort of a world combined with tactical grid-based combat like FFT, and then have that be in like an eldritch horror setting, which is one of my favorite settings, is just like, this is like tailor-made for me. And it's unbelievable. So let me get into like what this game actually is. So this game is a old school, like Commodore 64 style RPG, like computer RPG. Party based, you have up to 6 people in your party. You'll level up and have like skill trees and stuff. You cannot reset. You cannot take points back after you've like, you get 3 points every time you level up. And after you set them all and then hit A to like save your stuff, you can't change them.
You have decisions and consequences.
Yes. Those consequences will mean more the higher difficulties that you're playing on, but you can also, the difficulty in this game is perfection. First of all, there are console commands, aka cheats. You can fully heal your party up with a console command. You can add 1,000 gold to you. You can, I forget what the third one. Oh, you can win any combat encounter with a console command. Like you can just do that.
So if you get yourself into a completely unwinnable situation, you can bail yourself out if you need to.
You can get out. And there are also, there is straight up like RPG style camp and use food to give yourself like a full rest. And you can just get rid of that entire system if you want with one toggle in the difficulty. Like it can be like after every combat, heal everybody up to full for everything. Like you can just do that.
So it's modular depending on how much of the old school systems you want to engage with.
Yes. There's also,
I respect that.
There's also ways that like you can weigh how much each thing gets toyed with. So like you can have enemies get this number of rerolls to get whatever their best attack roll is. So like you can be like, all right, and then there's like miss smoothing, where it's like if you miss, how many times can you miss in a row before the game is like they can't miss anymore. You can decide that. Like there's so many granular things that you can do. You can determine when it's going to autosave, if it's going to autosave on sleep. You can have all kinds of stuff. You can save most of the time. You only can't save in combat, but you can save any other time. There's manual saves and autosaves and quick saves. And the quick save is you just hit the select button and that's it. Like it's really, really easy, really fast. It's great. The combat system is really fun. Like it is grid based. You have kind of the tactical, like put your character, like you've been attacked. Put your characters on the places you want them to be before you start. And then you will, if you do like a pincer attack on somebody, like if a character is flanked by enemies, they will take like backstab damage or like increased critical damage. And that goes for you and for enemies, which you can definitely use to your benefit. My character, I was a bard, and I ended up doing like spell casting plus like backstab build. which was really fun. I do have 2 pieces of advice
Mm-hmm.
for you. One is, unless you're super sure, don't make your character a rogue archetype,
Okay.
because you get like 3 or 4 of those. Like in my playthrough, I don't know how many characters there are. I only found 6. So I don't, well, actually, that's not true. I found 7, but by the time I got the 7th one, the 6th one was leaving. But I guess I could have still, maybe I could have used him. But anyways, I liked my party. I liked who I was playing with, but because like 2 of the 3 of the first characters that I had were rogue archetype, I had access to like less of stuff that I wanted to do. So I would say if you are going to do like play a character that is that has some sort of magical capabilities, and one of the early things that you can do is make sure that you have a way to like fix disease.
It's one of those. Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's everything I was able to like fix. And by the end of the game, so I started on normal difficulty. I played that for a while. Then I lost some progress. The cool thing about this is I actually lost like a while of progress, like an hour or 2 of progress in the game, but because of console commands, I like loaded back up, and it was only like 6 encounters. And so I caught back up to where I was in like 10 minutes. Because I just got into
That's
the
convenient.
encounter,
Yeah.
did the console command, win encounter, and then continued. And it was super easy to catch up to where I was.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I've proven myself. I don't need to do it again.
Yeah. Now, saying maybe don't use a rogue class, dude. Stealing is incredible in this game. Like, I robbed every person. After I started doing that, I was robbing them blind. Like, I stole like a full third of this one like merchant's inventory. Like, I stole 3 full sets of full plate armor. And I was like, bro, you don't realize that your tables are like very empty right now? Like, I don't, how do you not notice this? But I do like the way that they mechanically do it. Like, as you steal, even if you're successful, their suspicion will raise, which means that every time you steal, it gets harder. But
that makes sense.
But my thievery on my thief was so high that like the first 7 things I stole were like, yeah, you're so far beyond their perception that we're just going to automatically have you succeed. You don't even have to roll.
You are the eldritch unknowable horror.
Yes. But yeah, really, really fantastic. It got to the point where like by the end of the game, like I cranked it up to hard difficulty and I was still kind of cruising through it. So definitely feel free to like
tweak the settings to what you like
tweak it as you go. Oh, and another thing is you can totally turn off random encounters on the overworld, which I did after a while because I was just like I had plenty of stuff to get to. But yeah. All right, I gotta take a call real quick. But
yeah, no worries. I will fill some air. So yeah, I personally have not played Skald at all, but it's definitely like I saw the trailer, looked at the art style, hearing everything Brian's been saying. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pick that up, especially given that tactical combat is my jam. Like Brian, Baldur's Gate 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. You say that, you dangle it in front of me, it like pair of keys. Like, all right, fine, I'll jump in on that. So yeah, that's definitely on my list, and it's funny that it happens right now because you'll appreciate this, Brian. During the last week, I've actually been watching, like while I've been doing other stuff and in downtime, I've been watching a series of retrospectives by a YouTuber called Majuular. Shout out to him, who is basically going through he's basically going through the retrospective of the entire Ultima franchise. And Ultima is, again, it's like one of those early formative CRPGs that, predates me. Like by the time I was born, I think they were on like game 5 or 6. So, um, so I don't, that's kind of been people still talk about them. People still acknowledge them as very formative and very, forward thinking in a lot of ways. But it was like this gap in my knowledge that I didn't realize I had until I watched these in-depth retrospectives, and which also goes into like the development history, the like state of computers at the time and technology and advancing, the early onset of some of the big publishers that continue on today, like the early formations of Electronic Arts and such. And yeah, I just found that really fascinating, and as such I've had this kind of very old classic CRPG on my mind for like the last week or so. So you bring this up and I'm just like, man, this is well timed. I'm gonna have to grab this.
Yeah, so I think Ultima was like an influence on this.
It would
I
have to be. Like I took one look at it and went, I see what
I've
they're going for
also
here.
never played those Ultima games. Like I've played because Ultima was like kind of similar or like in a similar setting or something as like the Heroes of Might and Magic, right? Or no?
No, it has its own thing. Maybe Might and Magic co-opted it later. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I have experience with a lot of things that are like kind of adjacent to that, but not that specifically.
Yeah.
And then I know also like Ultima Online, like the MMO roots and like EverQuest and all
Pretty
that sort of shit.
yeah, pretty much a pioneer in the MMO front.
Yeah,
Ultima in general was a pioneer in a lot of ways, and that retrospective, again, highly worth checking out Majuular's channel. That's Majwuular. He's been going through those over the last few things. It's just really fascinating to see how influential this shit was, and how forward thinking and incredible it was, given that the first Ultima came out in like 1981. Like it predates both of us. So it's just really incredible. But again, it's like this thing that a lot of classic is constantly referred to, but is now so old and so distant
yeah,
that even fan remake projects of some of these games are themselves 20 years old. So
yeah.
it's like it's just wild. And
It's
yet we
kind
owe
of
so much to it.
yeah, but there's no like homage genre like there is for roguelike or something like
Yeah,
that. Like there's
definitely
no
not.
Ultima like because I guess people just kind of kept
They're
making them, but in different.
CRPGs.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just a modern CRPG. Everything that's, up to and including Baldur's Gate 3 has just been developing from those early starting points.
yeah. But the like that's what I'm saying. Like the aesthetic hasn't been like the gameplay elements have kept going, but uh the aesthetic is now coming back, which I like
Yeah.
because it's beautiful. Like it's really beautiful. The art in this game is just outstanding.
Hmm.
There are so many fucked up little vignettes in this game. Like it's so good. It's so good. Um, yeah, I mean it's fantastic. I need to sit with it but I can't like metaphor has kind of like dimmed as I've like gotten further away from it. I still have that appreciation for it. The writing in this game is so good. I can't really imagine that happening. And I feel like I will be thinking about like specific things that happened in this game, you know. And like this is like one of those like Catherine or something like that. Like this is one of those games that's like very maybe it's only unique because I didn't play those old Ultimate games, but like this feels like I have not played something like this before. When it's like the expansive world, like it is an RPG, but like there's so much writing, and it's also like it's not purely turn-based, like it's top-down grid combat, and the way that different things are handled. I don't know. It's truly fantastic. I think if things continue as they are, I think this will be vying for my number one position.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, it has this. Skald has like leapfrogged so many games to get to where it is on my list now. I would give, like, I think I looked at this and was like, how many games did I give full marks to last year? And there's like 2 or 3. But this is a 10. So
Damn. Yeah, you have an in progress GOTY list in the show notes that I noticed, and I kind of glanced over it as I was looking at it earlier, and just happened to see your top 10 is like, here's this. Wait, Skald is that high?
yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
You're saying it's heading towards number 1. I'm like, that's Balatro. Brian, is something aiming at Balatro?
Yes. Skald is
Are
coming
you
at the
all
king.
right? Are you okay?
Skald
Are you under
is coming
duress? Blink
at the
twice
king.
if you're under duress.
I will say this. I beat Skald earlier today. I was standing up. So I was playing this on my Steam Deck. I was docked on the TV and I was standing up playing it, which, as everybody knows, that's the highest praise that a dad can give to something, whether it's a movie or a game, I suppose. I put the controller down. I walked to the kitchen, got a drink, not really looking at what I was doing. I think I went to the bathroom and I was just like, I don't really want to play anything else right now. And then I think 30 minutes later, I played Balatro. And it was that's and even then it was I played through, I beat something with Plasma Deck. And then I was just like, then I put Balatro down and I was like, I don't even, not even you. Not even you. I
just need to sit.
I need to sit with this. And yeah, yeah.
Well, that just skyrocketed to the top of my you need to check this shit out list.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's the craziest thing is, if I hadn't asked people on Blue Sky, what should I play before Game of the Year, I wouldn't even have played this game. I didn't even hear about it before Bro told me.
I vaguely heard about it in passing, but hadn't actually.
It came out in March.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those indie games that just kind of flies under the radar. There's always the handful that, that just anything by Supergiant flies to the top. Yeah. There'll be 1 or 2 like Balatro that, become universal. In our circles, Mouthwashing pretty much rose to that very quickly.
Yeah.
But then there'll be a few that there's a handful that are kind of below that niche, like your Thousand X Resist or your Lorelei. They get mentioned, but not sung from the high heavens.
Yeah.
And then you get the ones below that, which are probably even better, but very few people actually gave them a shot.
Which
that and Caves of Cud seems to be a lot of ones people are talking about from last year, which has been in early access for fucking ever.
Yeah.
So
these are the games like A Thousand X Resist and Skald and Balatro, although that Balatro is a mainstream hit now, basically. Yeah. Arranger, Mouthwashing, Neva. These are the sorts of games that I really love the games industry for. These are the things that make me come alive.
This is the medium finding itself.
Yeah.
And exploring itself and expressing itself. What can we do with games to tell stories and have creative experiences that cannot be done elsewhere or would be difficult to accomplish elsewhere? What stands out? What makes a game good in that sense? Those are the ones that I always gravitate towards. They're maybe not the ones I play immediately because I'm a numbers junkie, as I've said before, but
and you will
but those are the ones that stick with me. I will say again, certainly, very soon. But yeah. Maybe that's why I like Lorelei and the Laser Eyes so much, because it's all fucking number puzzles. It's yes, I fucking love numbers.
Which it's crazy. I can't wait to. And I told the developer on social media, I hope we get more of this, because this is so good.
You have hit something real good here.
And it's crazy because this is what happened with Baldur's Gate 2, where it's just how many years did it take for me to get a follow-up? And it wasn't even from the same studio. It's I hope that that's not, because with this being from a small team, I don't know how many people worked on this game. But like there is so much writing. There is so much to this game. And it's just, I didn't even get to all of it. You know? Like I forget.
Still side quests and areas you didn't quite get to?
Yeah, that I abandoned just because I wanted to see what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Let's see. How long is this game? Yeah, I got, so main story, 17 hours. Main plus sides 20 and a half, completion is 27 and a half, and I played it for like 24 point something hours. So I did apparently like most of it, but yeah, it's just
Wild.
Man, incredible.
We expected 2024 to be kind of a dry year after, 2023, but no, it kept hitting.
It delivered. Yes, it absolutely delivered.
Of course, with all the massive, horrendous amounts of layoffs and downsizing and shit that also occurred last year, that was the last great swan song, probably. It's, yeah.
Crazy. I cannot wait for the end of the year episode.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And then, hey, this year isn't like completely bereft of good releases. Like I've got, like February is just going to be, Pirate Yakuza and then Monster Hunter for me. And then I'm good till March, baby.
I am committing. I am giving Monster Hunter a legit shot this time.
You haven't played that much of it previously, have you?
No. I've tried to get into it like 3 or 4 times. This one I'm like committing. I am going to like seek people out to play with me. I'm going to give this one a legit shot. Like
all you have to do is ask, I will go.
Yeah.
I will hunt.
So, yeah.
I will go play World or Rise with you right now if you want, but no, we'll probably wait for a while.
Yeah, I want to wait for Wilds. I'm definitely going to reach out for a key to try to see if I can cover it or something.
I think another beta test is running, which is the exact same as the old one. So don't get excited if you've already played it, dear listeners. But they're doing the beta testing again fairly soon. If not, it may have already happened. I don't know, but there will be another one before release. So
okay, yeah, I haven't played Wilds at all. So
I played the first beta. Put hands on my 2 major weapons. So I'm just like, okay, what do I want to play? And the answer is both. Cool, that's great. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I didn't dive in. I didn't fight every monster in the beta, and there's like a lot of systems obviously were not unlocked yet. So it's like, cool, I got a feel for it. I like where it's going. I dig it. Bring it on.
Yeah, the most I have played Monster Hunter has been in the modded Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond, where she's mad good.
She is.
So, but anyways,
yeah,
I think that's pretty much it that we got.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Pretty breezy episode.
Pretty much. We covered a lot in not a lot of time. So
yeah,
good stuff.
Oh, thanks for joining us for this episode. If you like the show, please leave us a review or share the show with somebody. We love talking to you all, so hit us up on social media. Join me on Blue Sky and Backlogged at Brian Barnett, BrianBarnett, and Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube at Ribnax, Ribnax. We stream the episodes live on Twitch, generally on Monday nights at around 7 p.m. Central Time. And then the VODs go up on YouTube, where you can see them for later. And if you want to see some of the stuff that I've been working on, I'm going to have a preview coming up pretty soon, but I also have some guides for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle up on Kotaku right now. And otherwise, just stay tuned. Kris, where can everybody find you?
You can find my stuff around the internet as obviously Kris Cornelisse. I usually go by Delfeir in most places. That's Delfeir. My personal website is versusthebacklog.com. That's vsthebacklog.com as one word. Hasn't been much new there, but there is more stuff coming soon, both there and elsewhere. Big plans for stuff. So stay tuned on that. And otherwise you can usually find me here most weeks.
Yeah. From everybody here at the Platformers, we hope you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Goodbye.